Chosen one, you feel it, don't you? That quiet stirring deep in your spirit. The sense that something you once released into the unseen is no longer buried, it's alive. It's pushing against the soil of your life, ready to break through. This is not imagination. This is not false hope. This is the undeniable truth. The seed you planted is ready, and God Himself has caused it to grow. For so long, it seemed like nothing was happening. You prayed, you watered with your tears, you whispered your dreams into the night, and still, the ground looked dry, silent, unbothered by your effort. People around you doubted, some even mocked. They said your faith was wasted. They called your waiting foolish. But you held on, because something inside you knew the God who sees in secret does not abandon those who trust Him. Right now, heaven leans close to tell you, the hidden work is finished. What you thought was dormant has been rising in silence. What you thought was overlooked has been nurtured in secret chambers of grace. The waiting was never wasted. The soil was never empty. Every unseen moment of obedience, every quiet sacrifice, every time you chose faith over despair, it became water to the roots of what you planted. And now, the season has shifted. You're standing at the edge of a divine unveiling. The very thing you thought you lost is about to reveal itself as multiplied. The promise you carried in whispers is about to speak loudly. The dream you surrendered is about to return, dressed in power and favor you couldn't have imagined. Chosen one, hear this clearly. Your seed is ready. You don't have to force it. You don't have to beg for it. You only need to recognize what God has already caused to grow. Because in just a moment, what was hidden underground will rise where everyone can see. Stay close. Because in this message, you will learn why your seed took this long, what it means for your destiny, and how to step into the season God has prepared for you. This is not just encouragement, it is prophecy, and it belongs to you. The truth is, growth has never been your doing. You could water, you could plant, you could labor in the field of your calling, but the increase, the miracle of life bursting forth, that has always been God's work. He is the one who watches over every hidden seed, guarding it in the dark until the time is right. And now, the time is right. This isn't just about your effort paying off. No, this is about heaven's fingerprints being revealed in your story. The seed you planted was never ordinary. It was placed in the ground under divine instruction. It carried the breath of God Himself. That's why it could not die, even when conditions seemed hostile. That's why no storm, no drought, no season of delay could destroy it. Because it wasn't just your seed, it was His seed through you. Can you see how carefully He has moved in your life? When you thought you were forgotten, He was sending roots deeper. When you thought nothing was happening, He was weaving unseen connections, aligning timing, preparing the soil for a breakthrough that would not only bless you but testify of His faithfulness. And this is why you can trust this message. It's not coming from empty encouragement. It's not wishful thinking or human invention. This is a revelation birthed in the Spirit of God, spoken to those who have ears to hear. You didn't stumble onto this by accident. You were led here because there is a divine confirmation assigned to you in this very moment. Think about how many voices you've heard in the past. How many words were spoken over your life? Some planted doubt, some tried to uproot your faith. But this word carries a different weight. This is not man telling you to hold on. This is God telling you the season has shifted. The ground has responded. The appointed time has arrived. There's a reason you feel a trembling inside, as if something is moving beneath the surface of your days. That inner witness is the Spirit bearing confirmation. God is saying, "What I promised I have not forgotten. What you trusted me with I have been tending. And now it will come forth." Your seed was always sacred because it was planted in faith. And faith never goes unnoticed before heaven. The angels recorded your prayers. The tears you shed watered ground you could not see. Even the moments you felt weak, when all you could whisper was, "Lord, help me," those became nutrients in the soil. That is why this harvest is not ordinary, it is divine. So pause here, not in fear, but in awe. Because the growth you are about to witness in your life cannot be explained by human logic. It will carry the unmistakable signature of God. And when others ask how it happened, you will know it was never your strength, never your striving, but always His hand. This is the foundation. Everything else you will hear in this word builds upon this truth. Your seed grew because God willed it. And now, He calls you to see what He has done and to prepare for the unveiling of the promise. The veil is lifting. What was hidden beneath layers of waiting, uncertainty, and silence is now pressing into sight. Imagine the seed beneath the soil. No one saw it struggle. No one witnessed the breaking of the shell. No one noticed when the first root pushed through the darkness. But God saw, and now, He has decided it is time for the green to break the surface. That moment, the breaking through, is the prophecy made flesh in your life. You thought you buried a dream, but in truth you planted destiny. And destiny, when watered by faith, cannot remain invisible forever. It must grow. It must show itself. It must declare the goodness of the one who authored it. Look around you. There are shifts in the air. The atmosphere feels different. That's because heaven has declared a new decree over your life. The seed is ready. The soil has served its purpose. Now comes the harvest. And what a harvest it will be. Not just survival, not just barely enough, but a harvest that speaks loudly of multiplication. What you placed in the ground has grown beyond its original form. Just as a single kernel becomes a stalk of wheat with many kernels, what you sowed in faith will return to you increased, pressed down, shaken together, running over. You may not see the full picture yet, but soon you will stand before doors that were once locked shut. You will see paths that seemed closed suddenly open before your feet. People who once ignored you will be drawn to the light of what God has raised in you. Those who doubted you will not be able to deny what is now visible. Hear the Spirit. This is not a delayed promise, it is a fulfilled one. This is not a vague someday, it is a specific now. The prophecy is being unveiled in your life, even as these words reach your ears. Think of Joseph in prison. Years passed in silence. His dreams seemed like foolish fragments of imagination. But suddenly, in one day, he was summoned into the presence of Pharaoh, and the prophecy God gave him began to unfold. Think of Sarah, barren for decades, yet when the appointed time arrived, her womb was opened, and laughter filled her tent. Think of David, anointed in secret as a shepherd boy, who years later stepped into the palace as king. Your story carries that same divine pattern. Hidden seed, silent waiting, and then suddenly, the unveiling. And with the unveiling comes responsibility. Because what grows from your seed is not just for you. It is meant to feed nations. It is meant to heal hearts. It is meant to shine as evidence that God is faithful to His word. The blessing you are stepping into carries purpose beyond comfort. It carries legacy. There will be no mistaking the source of this growth. People will ask you how it happened. Some will assume you worked harder, networked better, or stumbled into luck. But deep down, you will know this is not luck. This is God's prophecy manifest. This is the promise sprouting before your eyes. And let this settle in your spirit. God chose this exact timing. You may have wished it sooner, but He knew the ground wasn't ready until now. He knew your heart needed certain trials to deepen its roots. He knew the stage of your life needed alignment so that when the fruit appeared, it would have room to flourish. The prophecy is not just about what is growing, it's about who you have become in the waiting. Stronger, wiser, rooted in faith, shaped by storms, and now capable of carrying the weight of the blessing. So listen carefully. The unveiling of your prophecy is not distant. It is unfolding even now. The earth is breaking. The seed is showing itself. And soon, what was whispered in private will be proclaimed in public. This is your season of unveiling. This is the moment heaven has been preparing you for, and nothing can stop what God has ordained to rise. Seeds are mysterious things. You place them into the ground, and for a season they disappear. They are buried, hidden from sight, vulnerable to the weight of soil above them. If you judged only by appearances, you would think the seed had died. Yet in that hidden place, transformation begins. The outer shell breaks, the invisible life within awakens, and roots grow downward before any sign of life appears above. That is the essence of faith. Faith is planting without proof. Faith is believing that what you release into God's hands will not vanish, but will multiply in His timing. The spiritual principle is simple yet profound. What is sown in faith never returns empty. It carries within it the blueprint of harvest. This is why your season of waiting was necessary. You weren't just waiting for a plant to grow, you were being trained to trust in the unseen. The soil was the classroom, teaching you patience, endurance, and reliance on God's invisible process. Without that period of silence, your roots would have been shallow, and shallow roots cannot carry great fruit. The soil represents life's circumstances, the weight of trials, the pressure of disappointment, the darkness of uncertainty. But in God's design, none of these things are wasted. The darkness is where faith matures. The pressure is where strength forms. The silence is where trust deepens. The very things you thought were crushing you were actually cultivating you. And the timing? Divine. Just as seasons govern when a farmer plants and harvests, spiritual seasons govern when your seed emerges. Ecclesiastes reminds us, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." Your seed could not break through until the conditions matched God's appointed moment. If it had sprouted too soon, the frost of opposition would have killed it. If it had delayed too long, the soil would have lost its nutrients. But right now, conditions are aligned. The spiritual climate has shifted. The rain of God's favor has fallen, and the warmth of His light is calling forth your growth. Think of how Jesus spoke of the kingdom of God, like a mustard seed, the smallest of all seeds. Yet when it grows, it becomes the largest of garden plants, a shelter for the birds of the air. That is the spiritual principle in action. Small beginnings conceal great endings. What looks insignificant in your hand becomes extraordinary in God's plan. The storm you endured, the nights you cried, the rejections you faced, they all watered the ground. You may have despised those seasons, but heaven counted every tear as irrigation. Nothing you went through was wasted. Each moment added depth to your soil, preparing it for a stronger harvest. And here is a deeper truth. Growth begins underground, in hiddenness. Just as Christ spent 30 years in obscurity before 3 years of public ministry, just as Moses spent 40 years in the desert before leading Israel, your hidden years were not punishment, they were preparation. God was ensuring that when you emerge, you will not be easily uprooted. This is the paradox of the seed. What looks like death is actually the beginning of life. Jesus Himself declared, "Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." Your surrender, your willingness to let go of control, was the breaking point that allowed multiplication to begin. And so, the deeper spiritual meaning of this prophecy is this: God uses the rhythm of sowing and reaping to shape you, not just to bless you. The harvest is not simply about provision, it is about transformation. He allowed the seed to break so that you would learn resurrection. He allowed the ground to press down so that you would learn resilience. He allowed the waiting so that you would learn to walk by faith, not by sight. Now, as the seed emerges, it carries with it not only fruit but also testimony. Every leaf, every branch, every blossom is a story of God's faithfulness written in living form. And your life becomes that testimony. Others will look at what has grown in you and realize God is real and He is faithful. The meaning is layered. The seed is your dream, your calling, your prayer. The soil is your trial, your hidden season. The growth is God's timing, His faithfulness revealed. The fruit is the legacy that will bless more than just you, it will nourish generations. So let your heart rest in this. Nothing has been wasted. Not one tear, not one sacrifice, not one night of wrestling with doubt. All of it has been redeemed into growth. And the depth of the meaning is this: you did not just plant a seed of desire, you planted a seed of destiny. And destiny, once planted, must rise. When God begins to bring a seed to life, He always leaves signs. Not everyone will notice them, but those who are attentive, those who walk in the Spirit, will feel them like whispers across their soul. These signs are not random coincidences. They are confirmations, subtle but undeniable, that heaven is moving on your behalf. The first sign is the stirring of unusual peace. Where you once carried anxiety over whether your prayers were heard, there comes a quiet calm in your heart. It's as if the burden has lifted without explanation. You may not have seen the harvest yet, but you sense within you, something has shifted. Something has already broken through in the unseen. That peace is not ordinary, it is God's way of telling you the roots are deep and the growth is secure. The second sign is unexpected encouragement. A word comes from someone you weren't expecting, perhaps even from a stranger, and it echoes exactly what you have been praying in silence. A verse leaps off the page with unusual force. A sermon feels like it was spoken directly into your situation. These moments are not chance. They are heaven's fingerprints reminding you that your seed has not been forgotten. The third sign is unusual opposition. Yes, Resistance itself can be confirmation. Just as the sprouting seed must push through the soil, your breakthrough attracts pressure. People may suddenly question your choices. Doors may seem to shake as you approach them. Distractions may multiply. But don't misinterpret. This opposition is proof that something alive is pressing through. Darkness does not resist what is dead. It only resists what is destined to live. The fourth sign is divine alignment. Small details begin to line up in ways you could not orchestrate. Meetings happen at the right time. Opportunities emerge without your striving. Connections form that you didn't chase. You may find yourself saying, "What are the chances?" But in truth, there is no chance here. There is orchestration. God is aligning the pieces of your life like a master weaver, threading together a tapestry. The fifth sign is a deepening of vision. Suddenly, what was once a vague dream becomes clearer. You begin to see with more focus, more precision. The ideas that once felt scattered now gather into shape. Your spirit feels more certain, more directed. This is evidence that your seed has entered its season of visibility. It is no longer hidden, even within you. And finally, there is the sign of inner confirmation. You may not be able to explain it to others, but you simply know. Something within you testifies. The time has come. It is the Spirit bearing witness with your spirit that the appointed hour is unfolding. That inner yes is one of the clearest signals that God is calling you to lift your head and recognize the harvest. If you have seen any of these signs, take heart. These are not accidents. They are affirmations. They are heaven's gentle nudge, urging you to prepare your hands, because what is sprouting cannot be hidden much longer. Every seed must wrestle with the soil before it touches the light. And in the same way, before your promise becomes visible, you will encounter challenges that seem designed to bury you once again. But hear this truth. These challenges are not meant to destroy you. They are divine tests meant to refine you. One hidden challenge is impatience. After waiting so long, your heart might feel like it cannot endure even one more day. You might be tempted to force open doors that God has already scheduled to unlock in their proper time. Impatience whispers that you've waited long enough. But wisdom says, trust the timing. The final moments of waiting are often the hardest, because breakthrough is nearest when pressure is greatest. Another challenge is distraction. As your seed pushes through the surface, the enemy will scatter noise around you. People will suddenly call on your time. Trivial opportunities will appear. Old habits may resurface. These distractions are designed to pull your focus away from nurturing the harvest. But you must guard your attention like a precious jewel, because whatever captures your focus will shape your outcome. Then comes the challenge of doubt. You may see small sprouts, but the fullness is not yet visible. The enemy will whisper, "What if it dries up? What if it's not real? What if you only imagined this?" Doubt is like weeds. It tries to choke out what is growing. But remember, even weeds cannot stop a seed that God Himself has ordained. Your faith is the sun that fuels growth. Do not let doubt cast a shadow over what God has already begun. There is also the challenge of envy. When your seed starts to rise, some will notice, and not everyone will celebrate. Hidden jealousy may surface in people you thought would stand with you. Their words may cut, their silence may wound. But this too is a test. Will you stay rooted in love, or will you let bitterness poison your soil? Keep your heart guarded. What God grows in you cannot be stolen by another, and their envy cannot uproot what heaven has planted. And then, the challenge of weariness. Growth requires endurance. You've been through storms already, and sometimes the weight of continual pressing can feel unbearable. But take comfort in this. God does not allow the weight of soil to crush what is alive. The same pressure that feels heavy is actually what strengthens the stalk, making it resilient against future winds. Weariness may whisper, "You can't go on." But heaven declares, "You're closer than you think." Finally, there is the challenge of unseen warfare. As your seed nears its unveiling, the enemy becomes restless. Delays, sudden conflicts, unexpected resistance, all of these are spiritual pushbacks. But do not fear. These struggles are not signs of defeat. They are confirmations that your seed is dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. If the enemy is fighting you, it is because your harvest is real, and it will impact more than just you. So hold steady in the face of these challenges. They are not punishments, but proof. Proof that growth is happening. Proof that your seed is alive. Proof that you are standing on the edge of harvest. Endure the soil's final press. Because the light is just above you. When God brings forth a harvest, it is never without instruction. The seed is ready, the growth is visible, but how you respond in this season determines how much fruit will remain. This is not a time to drift or take your blessing lightly. This is a time to align yourself with divine order. The first instruction is simple, yet easily overlooked. Stay rooted in prayer. Do not let the excitement of harvest distract you from the source of the harvest. Prayer is the water that sustains what is growing. Even when the fruit begins to appear, even when opportunities multiply, you must remain in constant communion with God. Just as a tree continues to draw nourishment long after it begins to bear fruit, your spirit must remain anchored in the presence of the Lord. The second instruction: guard your tongue. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. As your harvest appears, speak only words of life over it. Declare God's promises daily. Do not allow words of fear, doubt, or comparison to pass through your lips. Others may criticize, others may mock, but your response must be different. Your words must align with the truth heaven has spoken. Speak blessing over your harvest, and watch it multiply. The third instruction: protect your focus. Remember the distractions mentioned earlier? They will intensify as your breakthrough unfolds. Not every opportunity is divine. Not every open door is yours to walk through. Discernment will be crucial. Ask God daily, is this for me, or is this a distraction? He will guide you. If something pulls you away from peace, if it leads you away from prayer, if it shifts your focus from obedience, then it is not from Him. Protect your focus as though your life depends on it, because your destiny does. The fourth instruction: steward with humility. The fruit is visible now, and people will notice. Some will celebrate, some will envy, but your heart must remain soft, anchored in humility. Do not boast in yourself. Do not claim credit for what only God could do. Instead, testify boldly, "This is the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes." Humility will keep the flow of blessing open. Pride will close the gate. The fifth instruction: give generously. The harvest is never meant to be consumed by one person alone. What God gives you is designed to overflow. Your breakthrough carries provision for others, whether that is financial, emotional, spiritual, or even wisdom born from your trials. Share freely. Plant seeds in others as God once led you to plant. The cycle of multiplication continues when you release rather than hoard. The sixth instruction: strengthen your faith for the next season. This harvest is not the end. It is only a stage in your journey. More seeds will be planted, more growth will come, more fruit will be revealed. Do not become complacent. Let this harvest be a testimony that builds your faith for what comes next. The God who grew this seed will grow others, and each time, the harvest will increase. And finally, the seventh instruction: worship through it all. Worship before the harvest. Worship as the fruit appears. Worship when challenges arise. Worship when victories are won. Worship is the act that seals your obedience, that keeps your heart aligned, that honors the one who gave the increase. Worship is not just a song, it is a lifestyle of gratitude and surrender. These are not heavy burdens. They are divine strategies. They are the keys to ensuring that what God has grown in you not only survives, but thrives. Each instruction is a step of alignment, a way to say, "Lord, this is yours, and I will honor it." So take these words to heart. Pray without ceasing. Guard your tongue. Protect your focus. Walk in humility. Give generously. Prepare for greater. And worship always. If you live these instructions, your harvest will not just be visible, it will be unstoppable. God has done the growing. Now He invites you to do the guarding. Heaven has brought forth the increase. Now you must steward it with reverence. Because what you carry is not just fruit, it is destiny. And destiny must be cared for with sacred hands. As your seed breaks through the soil and begins to bear fruit, you may wonder, will it last? Will something snatch this blessing away? That fear is natural. But let me remind you, the same God who grew your seed is the God who will protect it. He does not bring forth life only to let it be stolen. What He births, He shields. What He grows, He guards. Picture a field in the open. A gentle plant rises, fragile, vulnerable, yet above it, the farmer builds a fence, sets a watch, and drives away intruders. That is what God does with your harvest. He surrounds it with His presence, sets angels on assignment, and pushes back forces that would try to trample what he has raised. One layer of protection is divine covering. Psalm 91 declares, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That shadow is not weakness, it is a fortress. God's covering is like wings stretched over you, shielding you from attacks you cannot even see. While the enemy plots in the dark, heaven's shield surrounds you in light. Another layer of protection is discernment. As your blessing grows, not everyone who approaches you will have pure intentions, but God will give you eyes to see beyond words, beyond smiles, into the spirit behind actions. That discernment itself is protection. You will sense when to step back, when to remain silent, when to walk away. The Spirit will whisper, "This path is safe. That one is not." Trust those nudges. They are heaven's alarms guarding your steps. And then there is the assurance of peace. Peace itself is a fortress. Jesus said, "My peace I give to you, not as the world gives." This peace will anchor you when storms rise, when doubts press, when fear tries to creep back in. It will remind you that you are not alone. Peace is the voice of God saying, "I've got you, and I've got what I gave you." Even in warfare, protection is certain. The opposition you face is real, but it is limited. The enemy cannot touch what God has marked as his own. Think of Israel in Egypt. The blood on the doorposts was the sign of untouchable protection. In the same way, the blood of Christ is upon your life, marking you as sealed, chosen, covered. So breathe easier. Stop fearing the loss of what has already been secured. What God has raised cannot be uprooted by human hands, cannot be stolen by jealous hearts, cannot be destroyed by dark schemes. The seed was His, the growth was His, and the protection is His. Rest in that assurance. You are surrounded. Your harvest is shielded. Your destiny is safe in the hands that have always held you. When the seed fully rises and the harvest comes into view, everything changes. Not just your circumstances, but you. Because the true miracle is not only in what God gives you, it is in who you become through the process. Think about how far you've come. There was a time when you prayed only for survival. You asked God for strength, just to make it through another day. You whispered your requests in the dark, hoping He heard. Now, as the fruit begins to appear, you realize the waiting, the tears, the struggles, they all prepared you for this moment. You are not the same person who first planted the seed. You are stronger, you are wiser, you are more anchored in faith than ever before. Transformation begins within. Where fear once lived, faith now stands tall. Where doubt once whispered, confidence now rises. You feel an unshakable trust in God, not because life has been easy, but because He has proven Himself faithful. The soil that once pressed you down has become the very ground from which your strength grows. And then comes fulfillment. The harvest does not remain hidden. It manifests in visible ways. Opportunities that once seemed impossible begin to align. Resources you lacked suddenly flow into your hands. Relationships that felt broken begin to heal. The prayers you prayed years ago start unfolding like pages in a book you forgot you wrote. But the greatest fulfillment is not in what you receive, it is in what you give. The harvest you carry is not only for your table, it is for others who are hungry, lost, searching. Just as bread multiplies to feed the multitudes, your blessing multiplies to bless others. Suddenly, your story becomes someone else's hope. Your testimony becomes their strength. Your breakthrough becomes the evidence that God can do it again. The transformation touches every part of your life. Spiritually, you stand taller, your faith refined like gold. Emotionally, the wounds of the past are healed by the joy of fulfillment. Practically, doors open, favor flows, fruit multiplies, and in all of it, God gets the glory. People will look at you and know, this could only have been the hand of God. And yet, there is more. Fulfillment is not only the end of a journey, it is also the beginning of another. The harvest you now hold becomes the seed for future seasons. What you receive today, you will one day plant again in new ways, with greater faith, with deeper wisdom, with a heart that knows God will always bring the increase. So, imagine it. Standing in the field of your life, surrounded by fruit you once could only dream of, lifting your eyes to heaven, tears streaming, whispering, Lord, you did it. You kept your word. That moment of fulfillment is holy. It is sacred. It is the collision of promise and reality. of prophecy and manifestation. And through it all, your heart will know. You are not defined by the waiting, nor by the challenges, nor even by the fruit itself. You are defined by the God who never left your side. That is the true fulfillment. Not just receiving the blessing, but realizing that the greatest gift was His presence through it all. This is what your seed has grown into. A life transformed, a destiny fulfilled, a testimony that will echo beyond your years. Take a deep breath. Let these final words sink into your spirit. What has been spoken over you is not just encouragement, it is confirmation. The seed you planted is ready. God has grown it, and the harvest belongs to you. And as you step forward, carry these affirmations like weapons of light, declaring them over your life until they become your reality. Affirmation 1. I am walking into the season God has prepared for me. No delay, no opposition, no lie can change this truth. My steps are aligned with divine timing, and I move forward in confidence. Affirmation 2. What I planted in faith is rising in fullness. The waiting was not wasted. The seed has become fruit. The fruit will multiply. My life is evidence that God keeps His word. Affirmation 3. I am protected, covered, and sustained by heaven. No weapon formed against me can prosper. No voice of envy, no scheme of darkness, no storm of life can uproot what God has grown. His shield surrounds me, and His Spirit strengthens me. Affirmation 4. My harvest will bless more than just me. I am a vessel of overflow. What God has placed in my hands will feed others, heal others, inspire others, and multiply into generations. My life is not just fruitful, it is impactful. Repeat these often. Whisper them in the morning. Declare them at night. Let them take root in your heart the way the seed once did in the soil. Because these words are not empty, they carry the authority of heaven's promise. And now, let me speak a blessing over you. May the God who watched over your seed in silence now bring it forth in splendor. May every hidden root give way to visible fruit. May your eyes see the fullness of what He has promised, and may your heart never forget His faithfulness in the waiting. May peace guard you. May wisdom guide you. May joy overflow in you. And may every step you take be lit with the assurance that you are not walking alone. The same God who began this work will finish it, and what He has grown in you will bear fruit for eternity. This is your time. This is your season. Lift your hands, lift your heart, and step boldly into the harvest. Because the seed is ready. God grew it, and now it is yours to carry, to share, to multiply. Go forward in peace, with blessing, with power, and with joy.